Good evening, everyone. Welcome back to the Evermore YouTube channel. It's Monday night. You know what time it is. It's the time that me and Mark ask you, what's going on, Mark? What's going on with you, mate? That's a lovely looking cup you have there, my friend. I'll tell you what's going on, Mark. Newcastle United are third in the league. We are fucking brilliant. Everyone keeps nicking these lines. We are mint, everything else. We are fucking mint. We are the third best team in this league. Rightly so. Get it up, yeah. The rest of you can piss off. Liverpool up for sale. Ha, ha, ha. You're not getting our owners because they bought us, so fuck you. And there we go. I'm very happy.
Mike Ashley is on his way to Anfield as we speak.
Exactly. Mike Ashley, lad. Fucking hell. Mike Ashley, lad. Going to buy us and sell all the players for nothing, mates. Fucking get in. What a world we are living in, mate. So we've got loads of crack to get stuck into. As always, guys, we're live tonight, so jump in the comments. There's a few you have done already. We're going to check that out in a second. Just before we do a little bit of housekeeping, if you haven't already, please click that like and subscribe button. We are now over 2,000 subscribers. Get in the bag. It just gets better and better, mate, doesn't it? Mark's been dying to change that graphic. So we are over 2,000 subscribers. He's been itching to do it. We are over 2,000 now. If you haven't checked it out already, guys, we have got a 2K giveaway video, which is up on the channel. Make sure you watch that. Make sure you drop a comment as well. And you can win a wonderful prize. What can they win, the lovely Debbie McGee? What can they win? Tell them.
Ooh, yeah. I nearly went done from above there.
I was going to say, what are you talking about?
Jesus, this has gone all over the place already. So it's we decided we give away one of the lightweight training jackets. So as Chris says, check out the video on the channel. It's quite obvious which one it is. It's the 2K giveaway one. Make sure you subscribe, make sure you drop a like on the video, and most importantly, make sure you comment on the video too. We will close entries at kickoff time on Wednesday with the Palace game, and we will do a draw live on Evermore on Thursday night.
Absolutely, which I'm very much looking forward to, mate. It's the closest I'm going to get to being a game show host in the later years of my life. But as I mentioned, we are live tonight, so make sure you drop in the comments, guys. We've already got a few of you in there. Ash is in the house. Good evening to you, Ash. BT is on board. The one-line king himself, Jimmy, is in there. Ash is loving the intro. Yes, I don't know how many times I swore there. Ash might get kicked off in a minute. 2 coin a phrase, sexy piece of kit. 2 right. We've got Ian in the house saying he's in bed, but he's loving the shoe. Oh, sorry, the show. Maybe he loves the shoe as well. I don't know. Maybe he's got a cracking pair of shoes on in bed. That's a new way to do it, Ian, but whatever floats your boat, my friend. So BT is saying he's just finished watching Eddie Howe. What I've changed at Newcastle United. What an insight into him and how he works. Yeah, I need to watch that, mate. Lee shared that in our group earlier with Jake Humphrey, who we love on Evermore. Jake Humphrey's a top lad, so we'll check it out. William's in the house. How you doing, Will? And I love your shoes too, Ian, to go in the phrase. Do you know what?
To be fair, go. I was going to go back to Ian and just say, if he's in bed and loving the shoe, does he mean Elizabeth?
Elizabeth's shoe. No, but he spelled it
an
wrong.
80s reference. Well, yeah.
Elizabeth's shoe. Was Elizabeth's shoe the one from Karate Kid, wasn't it? That's Elizabeth's shoe, wasn't it?
No, Elizabeth.
Yeah.
Oh, God, no. Is it?
Yeah, it was. Not the Showgirls one. She was Elizabeth Berkley from Saved by the Bell, wasn't she?
No. I'm lost in my 80s references now. Dreadful start.
Dreadful start. He's off the rails already. Shoes off if you love the tune. Absolutely. But can't say any fair than that. Roger's in as well. Even Happy Tune Crew. Do you know what, Roger? That deserves another raise of the fabulous Evermore Cups. Evening to you too, Roger. Even to you too. I can't get mine angled right as Mark does. Yes, Ash, it was Karate Kid. And she was replaced with Jennifer in Back to the Future. And she was still mint in Hollow Man as well, mate, all them years later. She's got a portrait, a Dorian Gray portrait up in her wall somewhere, mate. She just gets younger and younger as the years go by. But let's get kicked on, mate, before we get stuck in the 80s for too long. What a great decade. Speaking of the 80s, lovely segue. Miggy Stardust is the first place to start, mate. Miggy Stardust, indeed. Another weekend, another Miggy Almiron special. And I've got to shout out, Mark, for once. We've slagged them off loads on the channel. Sky Sports, superb. What a little skit, little soundbite, little VT they did with Jack Grealish getting absolutely mugged off by Sky Sports. Mate. Brilliant. Beautiful.
And well deserved too, because
right.
He has opened the floodgates now, hasn't he? And Miggy has not looked back since the summer. He's on just total fire, and he just seems to get better and better as the games go on. He's got so much confidence. Nothing's too much for him. And there goes the
Oh,
cat.
there's you, and there is the co-host, just right on schedule. Just, I know Ash would have loved that. Ash has said she was in The Boys. I love The Boys. Ash, great show. I think Billy Butcher possibly swears just a little bit more than I do, so that's why I love him so much on that show, mate. But you're right, mate. Miggy's just been superb. I've got to ask the question though, mate. What's going on with Maitland-Niles? What was he doing with that tackle? Where was he going?
To be fair, I saw a comment on was it the post match show, and somebody put it was the Bergkamp moment, and it very much looked like he did. It was that dummy past
the little flick round him.
As he just dived in, so it was just. I mean, it was a sensational bit of play if he meant it. If he didn't, and he's got the look going with him, but it looked like he almost held himself just to let the ball run past the defender diving in. But there was two defenders in one move in the space of a couple of seconds, throwing themselves in when there's absolutely no need to do it. Yeah, he deserves all the look now, doesn't he? Because he's just playing so well, and it was just another sensational bit of play and good finish, and it's just, when's it going to end? I mean,
hopefully
when's it going to
never.
end? Yeah.
Hopefully never, mate. As Roger says there, it was intentional, Mark. Absolutely. I mean, the way he's playing, Christ, you wouldn't back him not to try it, mind you. But I mean, it was a sensational performance again by Miggy, and it inspired Mark's brilliant thumbnail tonight, which was Miggy Stardust, which was given to us by Carl in the chat. We must give Carl a shout out. But Mark's, Mark's fantastic line of we could be heroes just for one day, which I thought was absolutely brilliant, mate. So we are trying to talk to War Flags to make that a flag at the ground. So we really hope that happens. So that is absolutely amazing if that happens. We'll be waxing lyrically about that if it does. But it was an easy win, Mark. Obviously, I jumped on did the post match. Again, I think it was just another one of those Newcastle United performances where we just kind of allow these teams to be negative and try to stop us playing, and we almost just kind of let them piss around a bit, and then kind of from 50 minutes onwards we just ramp it up, don't we? It just go into overdrive, and it's just goal after goal after goal. Do the same thing against Villa, doing it against Southampton now. These are the kind of things we didn't manage to do against kind of Bournemouth and Palace to an extent, but it looks like Eddie's worked on the training ground. He's got the players into that kind of mindset where, you know, just be patient, keep playing your game, and then from 50 minutes onwards, do you think it's fitness, Mark, that kicks in with us because we're so fit, or do you think it's quality, or is it a bit of both?
There's a little bit of both. To be fair, when you look back at the game, if you kind of take off the tinted glasses a little bit, Newcastle weren't brilliant.
No, we weren't great.
And I think Eddie Howe said that. I think they were nowhere near their best in that game, and yet still come away winning 4-1. They had less possession. Certainly in the second half, they only had 41% possession. Only had 3 shots in the second half, 4 in the first half. They only had 4 shots on target the entire game and scored with all 4. When you look at Southampton created 16 opportunities. 16.
Really? 16?
They were poor.
And
certainly up front. But you look at that lineup and you go, well, where are the goals going to really come from in that? I mean, Elyounoussi missed an absolute sitter.
He should have buried that.
It's unbelievable miss. But when you've got Theo Walcott sort of leading the line, something's not right. Something's not right there.
It was like that Buzzcocks tweet I put under our page when he goes, where the fuck's he been for the last 10 years, like? That's what I just definitely thought about Theo Walcott when he appeared. I thought, where has he been for the last 10 years?
I've no idea, but you're sitting there with Adam Armstrong on the bench. You've got, is it Sekumara, who was also on the bench as well, that can play forward. And you just go, well, when the answer's Theo Walcott, Jesus Christ,
what's the question? Yeah,
it was just set up to not win, genuinely, and it's no surprise, and it's been coming, and I know we're coming to it, but it's no surprise that Ralph is gone, because it's just an awful way to set up, I think, and although they did have most possession, they did have the most shots, they don't look like scoring goals, they don't look like winning games.
Well, you've dropped it in, Mark. So we've got to do it. That was all she wrote for the twat in the hat, as I refer to good old Ralph as. He really is one of the most annoying managers I've ever come across in the Premier League. He does nothing but piss and moan. Even before the game, I'm going to leave this up just to bask in the glory of this, because he is the twat in the hat. Even before the game, he was moaning still. Somebody said about the game or whatever it was, and he said, "Oh well, of course Newcastle want to play. They haven't got any injuries." And you just thought, "Oh, fuck off! Do me a favor, mate. You're still not over that yet." And he's just. I've said to you before, he's like Jurgen Klopp on Wish. He's just a complete twat. Just a horrible.
I think that's been harsh on Wish.
Yeah, it probably is, to be fair. Wish, if you want to sponsor the channel, Wish, please, by all means. But evening, Wish, how are you? But I just think, to be fair, Hasenhüttl has been stealing a living at Southampton for years now. Has he been there 4 years? And they've been honking for like 3.5 of them. He's only had like half a season where they did all right. Was it Liverpool had beaten? He got on his knees and wept like he'd won the fucking fight at the end of Karate Kid with that fly kick, just to make that reference that Ash said before.
That's the second reference today.
It's great. We love an 80s reference, but do me a favor, man. Seriously, like that team is honking, absolutely shite, and he is not a good manager. So I'm so glad to see that the back of that tit, which is just he's a complete another tool. In all fairness, in there. Yeah, sorry, just Jack there. Thank you, Jack. Love it, mate. Yeah, smash the button if you haven't already, bud. But yeah, sorry, Mark. Go on. What we said.
No, I was just going to go back to obviously his record at Southampton. He's got a 34% win ratio. It's better than certain managers. We'll not mention their names. But he'd come in with a bit of a reputation coming from Leipzig, and you thought, he can take.
Sorry, mate, I was too easy.
I was just looking at the stats. I got sidetracked. He come in from Leipzig, and you thought, well, make your name at Southampton. Following the footsteps of the likes of Poch and take that on and get your next move. And when you have multiple games where your team gets hammered 9-0, I can accept that maybe it's happening once. Once is a fluke. When it happens again, there's something seriously wrong with your side that they can fall apart that much. Yeah. And his way of management is just, I just think it's atrocious. The way he approaches games, the way he talks about it. It's certainly when you come to the comments about the COVID break and not being able to play players that he then brought in the
ridiculous one
in the January window. And it's just, I'm honestly well shot of him, because I just, I mean, there were rumours that he was going to go to other Premier League clubs this year or last summer. They've all steered well clear of him, because I just think he's just a poor manager in the Premier League. He really is.
Yeah, he's just like an Austrian Sam Allardyce, really, isn't he? To be fair, mate, I think probably a similar style. But hopefully for Southampton they don't get a Sam Allardyce coming in, because we are light years away from Southampton, mate. So we got nothing to worry about them. But going back to the main man, Miggy Stardust himself, Mark, you got some stats there. Just if anyone questions just how class Almiron is, are you watching Jack Grealish with your shit 90s haircut? Just have a look at the stats slide that Mark's just going to pull up on the screen here, just to show you how amazing this lad has become, certainly this season, Mark. Pull up the names that this kid has done better than this season in terms of goals.
I think it's not so much that he's done better than, but look at the list that he's in. And this is Europe's top scorers, top 5 leagues. So it's England, France, Germany, Spain, and Italy. He sits 19th. Doesn't look particularly good, but he's level, with sort of 12th. And I've put him in 19th because of the number of assists. But essentially, he's sitting there in joint 12th with the likes of Lacazette, Tony Osimhen from Napoli, who's a brilliant striker. And the names in that list are just phenomenal strikers. And I guess you can argue that there's an awful lot of French teams in there, which tells you something about the French league. Certainly,
I think you get
just,
6 in the French league, mate.
I think, to be honest, I'd probably fall over and score 6 in the French league. Shola Amiobi would probably score 6 in the French league.
Shola Amiobi would be like prime Drogba in the French league. That's how pissed they are, mate.
So it's just the form he's in, and we touched on it before. He's just full of confidence. His form is sensational, and he just never looks like missing. He never looks like putting a foot wrong at the moment. And all of that work rate and all of that effort that he puts into the game, and he's put into playing for the club for the last few years, it's all clicked. It's all come together. It's taken a little while. And it's taken a manager coming in and giving him the belief to do it. You know, he had it like we touched on before. He's had a good preseason. First couple of games weren't quite hot, and then all of a sudden it's clicked. And one goal bred more. Yeah. And he's an absolute delight to watch. He plays with the biggest smile on his face. He's just an absolute joy. He
does, and it's brilliant to see. Tommy's nailed it. He is literally better than Messi. Tommy, we have stats to back it up. If anybody asks you to prove it, just say, fuck it, go look at Evermore. It's on there. Ash is right. 0 assists because fuck passing when you Miggy. 2,
you don't need to assist when you can put the ball in the back of the net. There you go.
You don't. And we've got trolls in the house. Nice to see you, trolls. Evening to you too, mate. But yeah, so I mean, just going into it, we've got Chelsea up next. Obviously, we'll cover that preview when Evermore's Thursday this week because of the cup game. So we'll talk a little bit about the Chelsea match on there. But to be honest, mate, I'm not scared of Chelsea at all. I thought they were honking at the weekend as well. I think every team's shit scared to come to Newcastle United and St James's Park right now with that cauldron and that atmosphere. And with this being the last game before the World Cup, Mark, I just honestly think we're going to go into the World Cup break, if not third, fourth in the table. And what a way to go in that World Cup break, mate. Who'd have thought that? Fucking Nora, Jesus.
Can you imagine saying that at the start of the season? Can you imagine saying to somebody, "Yeah, we're going to be third or fourth come the break"?
Laughed out of the room.
You'd have been just laughed out of whatever pub you were in at the time. And the run that Newcastle have been on, the form they're in, the way that they're being managed, it's just all come together. And I've said it before, and I'll say it again, and I'll probably sound like I'm a broken record, but there is such a feeling now with this side that there was with Leicester. And I'll go back. I don't think they're going to win the league at all. That would be completely insane given the two sides ahead of them. But there's such a feeling now that they're going into games expecting a result. They're in form. There are teams around that are all falling apart. They're all dropping points. The likes of Manchester United, Liverpool, Tottenham, Chelsea, they're all hitting bad patches of form and allowing Newcastle to just pull away from them a little bit. And I think that, like Leicester, allowed them to just get into a position where nobody ever expected them to be in. And when you've been so bad for so long, and it's totally unexpected, and everything seems to be falling into place from it, and even without your record signing, and you've missed players,
which is nuts when you think about it. As the current phrase says, it looks like we're breaking away into a group of 3. I mean, the Premier League is divided into different sections, Mark, isn't it, in terms of those kind of top 4 teams, and then you got anywhere between kind of fifth to 8th, really, who just go up and down like that, and then the rest of the sides obviously make it up mid-table, whoever peaks in the top 10. But I think you look at the teams that Newcastle have played right now. We've played the best, right? We've played some of the rest, and honestly, it doesn't look like many people are going to trouble us really this season. If we can continue to keep players fit, which is a huge thing. I mean, obviously at the weekend, Jesus Christ, when Trippier went down holding his hamstring, and then when Wilson obviously didn't come out for the second half, we were all a little bit worried. We'll come on to Wilson in a second, but you need to keep those players fit. But I mean, Ash is making a joke there about Pep shitting himself. Pep Guardiola turned around. I mean, I like Pep Guardiola. Give me him over Clippity Clop any day of the week, to be fair. And Pep turned around and he said, didn't he, in the room, he said Newcastle are a title threat, and then some of these journalists were chortling away and everything. Probably just taking a break from their vapes to have a little chuckle. And Pep Guardiola said, imagine that team with no European football playing 1 game a week. He said, "You're telling me they're not title contenders?" And Eddie Howe laughed it off. But you know what? To even have Pep Guardiola, considering us as a title threat, that to me, mate, where have we come in 12 months, man? From breaking bacon to just, this beautiful dish that's served week in, week out, man. It's you could never have pegged it, could you?
It's phenomenal. I think the journey that there's been in the last 12 months, where you consider that after the first 13 games of last season, you were sitting 19th or 20th without a win, and it was just going nowhere, and there was a real risk of relegation last season, and then it all changed. It took a few games. It took a little while for Eddie Howe to get his way, to get the players on the right page. There were some really shit games in that run through December as well. I remember sitting here doing the slide rule pass stuff and going, well, if they can get through that with a couple of results out of it, even if they're just draws and don't leave a gap between themselves and the rest, they can get out of it. Jesus, we didn't see what came next. And it's just been such a rise. And I think everybody slapped on them. None of the other clubs have seen this coming from Newcastle this season. I think they looked at last season and went, well, they've had their break in the summer, it'll stop. And Newcastle have just come back out, a couple of new signings, a couple of big moves to strengthen that squad. And they've just caught teams by surprise. And I think for the start of the season, teams are still going into it with thinking, it's Newcastle, we'll be all right, and then
getting blown away.
What the hell's gone on? And you still you can almost see the complacencies from some of them. City were one. I think City were really complacent at St James's Park. I think Liverpool were really complacent at Anfield, and it showed. And Newcastle's intensity in both of those games really shocked them.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. Sorry, I beg your pardon. Yeah, Peter, don't worry about being late, mate. Join the party. No problem at all, mate. Lovely to have you on board. Trolls is saying he's so sad that bacon is now related to Bruce because he loves bacon. Just have a sausage sandwich instead, mate. Same thing. Same thing. It just means that you don't have to worry about that knacker. Jason is saying Maxi is fit. He's just in school right now. House school. Absolutely, mate. Yeah. Do you know what it is with Maxi? I still stand by this claim that I've made, in the Evermore chat, and I've said on the channel as well a few times, that I still don't think that Howe trusts Maxi fully. And I think as good as Maxi can be, I think Maxi lacks one thing that Howe wants, and that's consistency. He's either brilliant or he's not great. He's never kind of he's never consistent. And it was a big season for Maxi. We all said that, huge season for him. The injury came at a really bad time for him because he was phenomenal before he got injured. I mean, he ripped City a new one. They didn't know how to deal with him. And when he's like that, he's unplayable. He really is unplayable. But I think the Maddison deal in the summer, that looked like it was going to go ahead, I think that would have put pressure on Maxi's starting position in that 11. And I still think that'll get reignited in January. And if Maxi's still a little bit in, a little bit out, and he's not fully fit, he's not doing what he was doing before that injury, I think you'll have a real trouble getting back into the team, mate. And he could be on his bike in the summer. I think if that happens.
Yeah, I think we kind of all said, didn't we, that he wouldn't go. There were rumours that the likes of Spurs were looking at him in the summer, and we all sort of said he's got at least a year to kind of prove himself. And it's strange because he was so good before. He was almost a one-man team at times. But I don't think this way of playing suits him, because he's not able to get those runs at defenders like he did before, because you're playing so much further up the field. What was the stat you sent us the other day about the starting position from goal? And it's about 3 or 4 yards further forward than it was a couple of seasons ago. And it just means he's got less space to run into. So he can't get up to speed. He's best at full flight with the ball at his feet. And because you're getting the ball, look at the City game as an example. Coming from sort of the halfway line, getting up to speed with a ball at his feet, he's sensational. If he starts 5 yards from the edge of the box, he can't get up to speed. And it sort of takes away a huge part of his game. But let's not let's not forget he's a brilliant footballer, and
he is on his day.
I hope it will click, and he becomes an integral part of that side. And get him if he's fit, get him playing, and just let him loose, and especially let him loose against Chelsea. I think it's almost a perfect game to bring him back into.
I think he'd have a lot of space against there. But Trolls is saying Maddison may be hard to get with Leicester doing so well now. Mr. Taylor 150 said that Maxi struggles defensively. Jimmy agrees with me. He reckons he might get sold in the summer. He's been out more than Wilson. Roger saying money talks, Trolls. Just with reference to Maddison. I think he's right. Good comment here about Zaha. We did speak about Zaha, then we did a rumour has it on him, Mark. Lee Toff saying this here. That do you know, it's a funny one with Zaha. I was talking to my dad about this the other day. Obviously, my dad's a Celtic fan. Don't hold that against him. He does know about football. But my dad was saying that if you had a straight shot between ASM and Zaha in terms of who's more consistent and who's more of a threat in a game, he said he'd pick Zaha every day of the week. Now, I think Zaha's more of a goal threat, but he doesn't have the assist that ASM has. But we had that conversation, Mark, when we're doing Rumour Has It. Is it because Zaha doesn't have a striker like Callum Wilson to feed? Is that why he's not got assists? It's an interesting one, mate.
Possibly. He is very much the man for Palace. I think a lot like, and let's compare him to ASM. He very much like ASM under Bruce. He was the player, and that shows exactly what ASM's got in his locker. Yeah. And I think there's an element of that with Zaha at that level with Palace. Everything goes through Wilfried Zaha.
Because he's the man, isn't he? He's the man. Yeah.
It's being taken a little bit away from him now with the emergence of Eze and that, but it's still him. It's still his side. Yeah. Unless he chooses to move on. So does he come into a side? Would he come into a side like Newcastle and maintain that form? I'm not sure he would. And the age is an issue, I think, as well. He's 29 now.
Yeah, Zaha's.
He's old, but he doesn't fit the mold of an Eddie Howe signing.
And he's a bit of a moany prick as well, isn't he? To be fair, he loves a whinge, did he? I don't know about that really, but yeah, I mean, Trolls had said stop slagging off ASM. We're not slagging him off. We love ASM, but I'm just not sure whether he's long term. He's an Eddie Howe player. To coin a phrase, and he's a believer in a squad, not 11, with 5 subs possible longer injury time. Games can be won off the bench, and I think William saying Maxi would be a brilliant super sub as well. But just moving on to the next one, actually, we've got to mention this as well. Trossard, Ashington, definitely, he'd be a hell of a player, mate, absolutely. But just moving on to the next section about Callum Wilson. So we all shit ourselves a bit when Callum Wilson didn't come out for the second half. Thank God this was dispelled very quickly. I think it was Craig Hope that dispelled this, I think, or somebody did. But I remember seeing Wilson on the bench, and he was talking. It was Darlow, I think he was talking to, and then they must have said, "Are you all right?" And he just went like that. Then he pulled like a snoot up over his nose. So it just turned out that he was feeling a bit dodgy because he'd had a cold all week. So we were saying that maybe he should just bashed a couple of Jatemans in, mate, and came out in the second half and scored a couple of goals, mate. Do you reckon that would have been the best way to do it?
Yeah, I think it was a worry. I saw somebody comment on Twitter as well when he gone off and he went. They were begging for a substitution. He went, "Oh my God!" But yeah, I think I saw it from, was it Luke Edwards that I saw that mentioned it, that he was feeling a bit chesty, which prompted my Geordie's going menthol tweet. But yeah, I mean, that's precautionary. You bring him off if he's not feeling great. You don't want to push him too much. You didn't need him in the end, did you? So it worked out all right. Gives him time to recover. I've just spotted Ash's comment there. We're getting back into the Cavonia again from a few weeks ago. I need the image. I haven't got it at the moment.
I was just going to say that was when Dye was swigging it from the bottle and he was high as a kite, mate, wasn't he? Absolutely. Just go back to Lee's comment here about Zaha. Actually, he's saying that Zaha scores goals. The reason I ask is that Newcastle reporter Keith Dowdy, who's been on our show, we love Keith, top man. Even to you, Keith, top man. He broke the news saying that we are going in for him, Sky Sports. So yeah, I mean, to be fair, I mean, Zaha does give you goals. There's no doubt about that. listen, if we got Zaha, I'd obviously be well happy with him being part of the Newcastle squad. But as Mark says, he is getting on a little bit there, so potentially that might not have a lot of legs to it. But I think was it Craig Hope had put something as well, didn't he, about the biggest thing that Newcastle have in this transfer window, the draw, is Eddie Howe, really, Mark, isn't it? Because Eddie Howe is playing such good football with these lads. He's making average players into good players into brilliant players, and he's doing it just with a charm, with an articulation, with an aura about him that makes him look like a kind of guy that you want to go and play for as a player. And I bet you all these guys will know each other through sponsorship deals and and stuff like that, and they'll be talking to each other and they'll be saying, "What's he like to play for?" And they'll be saying, "Oh, he's fucking unbelievable, man." And players will be saying to their agents, "Get me at Newcastle." They will, Mark, won't they? There's no doubt about that.
Look, he's coming across, and it's a bit of a cliche thing to say, but he's coming across as one of those managers you'd run through a brick wall for, because he's so. And I mentioned this in our chat earlier on. He's so humble and he's so down to earth with it. He's not showy. He's not flash. It's not all about the comments that he makes. I'm referring to Jurgen Klopp. If anybody didn't realize that I was, it's not all a show about him. It's not a Mourinho style. He's not shouting and bawling on the sideline, losing his mind, throwing things all over the place. He manages the football team, and that is worth its weight in gold, because he's so calm under pressure and he's so measured in what he does. And even when we all sit there, we're all the perfect pundit, aren't we? Going, well, he shouldn't have played this and he shouldn't play that. We all said he shouldn't have played Murphy in games. Proved us completely wrong. He's just
jury's still out on that one a little bit, mate.
Did you win? All I'll say that is, did you win the games? There you go. That itself proves that he made the right decision. And it's one of those where now you're going to get players that look at it and go, he's doing things the right way. What can he do to improve me? And if you look at some of the England lads, the likes of Maddison will turn around to maybe Wilson and Byrne and Target and the likes and go, what has he done for you? And that answer back is going to be massive. And the players themselves will sell Eddie Howe. I mean, he doesn't need much selling, because you can see how good it's going. But that friendship between those players will massively sell the club and Eddie Howe's vision and his coaching methods to them.
Yeah, no doubt. Don't worry, Ash. We love being your muse. He's literally used that line in his article today. We are literally his muse, to the point where he even tagged our video in by mistake. Don't worry, Ash. All is forgiven. There's no dramas here, man. There's no dramas here. And Ashington is saying that he's got high hopes for Eddie Howe to become a top English manager. It's interesting that no English manager's ever won the Premier League yet. So I'd love Eddie Howe to do it. Could you imagine Eddie Howe doing it with a philosophy that he's got, which is just absolutely incredible? And Ian's saying that Eddie's the perfect manager for us. He's not a Klopp, as you say, Mark. He'll never be an embarrassment to our club. Like you say, it's his humility and his class that just carries him through. We were talking, maybe last What's Going On, wasn't it? When I said that he reminds me a lot of Bobby Robson, with that class and with that aura about him. Just that respect, that he has for his players and the club and everything else that goes with it, mate. So just absolutely superb. We have got a comment there which is going to lead us into our next section really, really well. I'm just trying to find it again. There, where was it? Here we go. Ashington is saying that Bruno will be telling all his Brazilian mates Newcastle is the place to be, and that's a lovely segue, Mark, into the next one, which is Brazil in, or Brazilian and Brazili out, as you've so aptly put there, mate. So obviously the Brazilian squad was announced today, Mark. So great news for one of our players, not so much for one of the other players, mate, which we were hoping he'd get a sniff, weren't we?
Yeah, I think nobody truly expected Joe to make it. I still believe that he should have done, because he would give that squad something completely different to what they've got, especially in that midfield. He gives a level of physicality and stuff that those players just don't give. Certainly not anymore. It is a shame for him. I guess in that regards, when you look at some of the players, Richarlison's been a little bit up and down. I know he was struggling with injury, and could that still keep him out and force a change in that regard? I'm not sure. I'm not sure what his fitness status is, but It is a shame. But I mean, brilliant. The video for Bruno as well, when he sat with his family.
Oh, class, man.
I know that's
Absolutely class.
wholesome content.
Yeah,
I saw
Bruno's
the one
like
with
that, though, isn't he? The
yeah.
whole Gemaresh family's just what a dynamic they've got, man. His dad in the crowd and that singing Bruno in the middle. Just it's class, man. It's lush to see.
It is, and there was another one as well because Anthony was there was a video with him sat on his sofa with some of his family and that, and again, it's just those are the things you want to see from your players. Wanting look at that reaction for being chosen to go to a World Cup for your country. That's what it should be like. That's what international football should bring. It should bring that level of enthusiasm and excitement about being picked. Not mundane as it kind of has been probably over the last 10 years or so.
Yeah, some comments there, though. I mean, I agree with Ashington. I think Joe is better than Fred. I mean, I think Tommy's saying that Joe's still young and he can break into that squad. I mean, the club did a lovely tweet when they said his time will come for Joe, which I thought was class. And again, even that just shows you where we've changed as a club, with that kind of thing that the club does to pick their players up when they're feeling down about missing out on a World Cup squad. Ash is saying Richarlison, Fred, Paqueta, and even Casemiro are all performing worse than Joe Linton. I think the biggest problem is, I think, with Joe, as you say, Mark, he's, you look at some of the names on that list there, and there's some big players there, isn't it? They've been playing at top European clubs for a long time and have established himself in that Brazilian setup. Joe's been in and out. We've got to remember, less than just over a year ago, he was a shite striker who couldn't hit a barn door. And then Eddie Howe converted him into, the next Patrick Vieira. So it might take another year, possibly, before he gets on that Brazilian radar. But I think once he's in, he won't get back out because Bruno Guimaraes is a brilliant player, and Joe gives as good as he gets with Bruno in that team. So Bruno will definitely be saying, because he looks like that kind of lad, than he was, so he did with the Player of the Month competition. Bruno will be like that in TD's ear, just saying, "Here, this my mate's class. Don't overlook him. For Copa America or whatever's coming up next, and everything else." I do think he will get his shot, mate, as some of the guys are saying.
Yeah, I think it's coming. It is a shame, like I say, that he hasn't gone this time, but I do think it's coming. I think he will get his chance, and I think once he's there, he'll show his worth and give that. Like I said, it's something that they don't have in that squad. They haven't got that bully in that midfield that they can utilize it, and somebody who can then flip between being a midfielder that dominates with his presence, his physical presence, and somebody that can then get forward as well, and the partnership, the way that he works with Bruno, that will come on the international setup, and I think we'll probably see more. Look at the former Fabinho. Fabinho is nowhere near the player he was
Fabinho's
a year or two ago.
Dreadful, isn't he? Yeah, he's been dreadful.
He's been awful. And I think there was initial reports that Coutinho had made the squad as well, and I nearly choked on my coffee when I read it, because it was just he's been so bad for the last 7 months or so.
This coffee?
It's just been.
Sorry, mate.
How he would have got picked ahead of him would have been unbelievable. So I'm glad to see that he's not gone ahead of Joe in that regard, because he just wouldn't have deserved to. But like I say, Joe's time will come. He is still young enough to have at least another World Cup to aim for. So
I agree. This is an interesting comment by Jason. Sorry, but it's an interesting comment by Jason. I mentioned this, I think, on Evermore did now on Wednesday, that Joe Linton's a Premier League midfielder. He says he breaks up play and covers the ground, not a glamour player. That's the Brazilian way. I think I said, didn't I, that he's almost a bit too British as a player. It reminds me a lot of what Gerrard used to do for Liverpool. Gerrard was like that. He'd break up that play and then he'd just go on these charging runs. Certainly earlier on in his Liverpool career. And Joe really reminds me of that type of midfielder. So potentially that's why he's not getting the sniff for Brazil as much. It's a good comment, Jason. And we'll pull this one up for Richard. This is a lovely comment, if you mean it in a nice way, Richard. I can't tell you what this team and you lads do for my health. I really hope we improve it, Richard, is what you're trying to say, mate. And if we do, we're really glad that we do, mate. You're a top man. Thank you so
Absolutely.
much. Subscribe if you haven't, buddy, and we'll continue to try, hopefully, you with your health, as well as Newcastle United is doing at the minute, mate, as well, which is brilliant. And we've also got
anybody watching Newcastle at the moment. It's got to give you a massive boost every single time they take the field.
It's like Barney Gumble, isn't it? Just hook it to my veins. That's what it's like at the minute. It's just beautiful. Sweet nectar ready. How football. Lee Toff saying he'd love to see War Flags do presentations for little Bruno. Bless him. That would be amazing. He will stay forever. I think Bruno feels the love already, mate. But I like the way you're thinking. Absolutely. And Ash is coming to comment. Are these mugs for sale, or you just show it off? Because I pretty well want one. Do you mean these mugs, Ash? These mugs? It's funny actually. So if you haven't noticed already, guys, we were just pissing around with the idea. So Mark went and got these done for us. It was Mark's birthday the other day. If you didn't know, everybody wish him a happy birthday. He's only 62 years old. Looks great for his age. No, he's obviously not, but it was Mark's birthday, so I popped out to give him some prezzies, and he pulled these mugs out, which was brilliant. And then me being me, asked him to redesign the logo, which you can see. You can see that he's done.
Within about 8 hours of having had these delivered, I went, can we redesign the logo so it's more our thing rather than utilizing stuff from elsewhere? And it was like, yeah, great. Hang on, I've just bought these mugs for you, git. So that was but it's it is, to be fair, it's something we've kind of touched on. Maybe we'll look at in the future doing stuff like that. But it's it was just, I think Chris was just on a bit of one today because we got them just like, hey.
Yeah, we'll just show it off. But let us know what you guys think of the new logo. I think Mark's absolutely keen. I think it looks awesome. I really do. And you never know, Ash, one day soon we might look for some merch, mate. And you'll be one of the first ones, hopefully, to buy a mug, mate. And would love to see you have pictures of it up on your podcast as well.
Thank you, Roger.
Birthday message from Roger and from Froze as well, mate. So well deserved. And actually, speaking of birthdays, it's just these segues just keep on flying in. So it wasn't just Mark's birthday the weekend. It was also the birthday of the Geordie Maradona, which is Elliot Anderson. If you don't know, Elliot Anderson was 20 years young. So just your age minus the VAT mark, really, wasn't he? So young Elliot came off the bench again. Didn't do anything particularly wrong, just kind of got stuck in, tried to make things happen as he always does. So happy birthday to one of Whitley Bay's finest, mate, and Elliot Anderson as well, of course.
Thanks, man.
So the two of you, mate, absolutely. Yeah, lovely link.
That's harsh.
Yeah,
but thank you.
95th minute. I was going to say 95th minute, mate. 95th minute. Tommy said, "Happy birthday, Mark. You can get Chris a Break and Bacon one for his." Absolutely, mate.
That was a tremendous idea.
That's a great idea. We've got
to get some with Break and Bacon on. That's a fantastic idea.
That would be a good one. We could actually get
that one.
Yeah, we were toying with a T-shirt of no dickheads policy for PK, so that might make an appearance on an Evermore podcast soon. Check that out. Yeah, I agree with you, Ashington. I think Anderson could be the new Gascoigne. It's a lot of pressure to put on him, but honestly, I think he's an absolutely smashing player. To coin the phrase, is saying, "Do you think he'll start Wednesday?" I do, Mark. What about you, Anderson? I know we're going to do a preview, but I think Anderson might get a game, mate, at the weekend. On Wednesday. I think he might get.
I think you look to make a couple of changes in that side just to kind of keep everybody fresh for the Chelsea game, and I do think he'll come in and play. I don't think you can take your foot off the gas too much with this. If you kind of look at what's going on, Chelsea play Man City, don't they? Is it Wednesday or Thursday?
I was just going to say, because Roger's asking if the Palace game's on Sky. I don't think it is. I think Chelsea and Man City are on.
I think it's
on
the
Sky
kick-off.
Yeah, and who else is on? There's Manchester United Villa.
Yeah, it's on Thursday. I don't think you completely swap out the squad a la Arsenal at times. There's a real opportunity to go for a trophy, I think, this season with the way that the league sort of season is set up, with the way that obviously the teams are in and around you, or looking at European competition. You've got 4 English teams in the Champions League knockout phase, and you've got Man United, who got to play that playoff, haven't they, against Barcelona for the Europa. There's teams around that have all got something else to kind of focus on.
Yeah.
As well as trying to get, and when you look at the likes of Spurs and Liverpool and Man United and Chelsea, all trying to get back into form in the league, there's a real opportunity for a trophy this season as well, I think, while everybody else's attention is elsewhere.
Yeah, absolutely. Barbara thinks Anderson will play. I'd agree with you, Bob, as well. Smash subscribe if you haven't, Bob. I haven't seen you before in the comments. Great to have you on board. We've got Sean as well, is saying that Bruno's the first Newcastle player chosen to play the World Cup. First of many, mate. It's just a brilliant place to see. I'm just going to pull up Richard's comment here, actually, guys, because I've just seen this coming before. So Richard's saying, thank you, lads. He's been in a bad place. You cheer me up so much. Love the tune. So much you can change your religion, your name, your partner, whatever. You'd never be able to change your love for Newcastle United. That's lovely for you to say, Richard. We hope you're in a better place. I think some of the guys have said that in the comments too, mate. And honestly, we just love coming on and talking about Newcastle with you guys. and if that makes you feel better in that moment, Richard, then do you know what, mate? I'm really glad that we've been able to do that, buddy.
Absolutely.
So, just make sure you stick in with Evermore. We've got a brilliant community here in the chats. Even when me and Mark are just rambling, these guys in the comments are absolutely awesome, mate. So to
be honest with you, the chat is a show in itself. The guys in there are just brilliant, and it is it. I touched on it the other week. It is feel now of a proper little community thing in the chat where it's just brilliant, and not everybody agrees, and that's what you want. You want a different opinion from people, and you don't have to always bite at each other and stuff and that. And it's just great to see. So long may that continue, and I'm really pleased that we are able to help you, Richard. And if you just get involved in the chat if you need to vent at any time. Do you know what I mean? It's just we're always there to kind of just help out. That's what we love doing, and we just like to make things a little bit fun for everybody, and especially the way things have been over the last few years. It's nice to have somewhere just to talk some crap about football, isn't it? It's just and it's going so well for Newcastle. It just makes everything a little bit more positive.
See, exactly, Richard. That's just like I said, rambling. So sorry, Mark. I'm only joking.
Yeah, I did. There you go.
Yeah, but Jason's saying that he's no Gaza, but could be a future Brian Robson. Bloody hell, could you imagine that? God, a future Brian Robson. What a player. Trippier's pass was absolutely brilliant, Sean. It was
sensational.
And that's why he's the best right back in the England squad. And all this bloody talk about Trent and all that stuff. Trent's a good player, but he's not a defender. He can't kick his way out of a paper bag. So I'd start Trippier all day long for England. But we are going to hopefully do some World Cup stuff, guys. So we're not going to just disappear off the radar in the World Cup, like my team, Scotland, who aren't going to even be there. So they are disappearing off the radar. But we will be doing some World Cup stuff, which Mark's smiling at there in the background. Yes, ha. But we will be doing some stuff about the World Cup, obviously the England squad and everything as well. Jaconia Fraser saying Joe Litton, Shelby, Bruno, Maxi, Wood, Anderson. Tricky to see where Anderson might start. Yeah, I don't know whether, does he rest Miggy because Miggy's been smashing so many games in, Mark? Does he? But Miggy's so fit, isn't he? Like Miggy could play 3 games a day and be all right. I think that's how fit Miggy is.
I think with the break, I think what helps in regards to your team choice for this week is the fact that you've got the break. You've only got 2 games, and then there's a month and a half break. So is it just go all out and just keep playing the first choice team? Maybe it's 1 or 2 changes just to give a couple of players a rest, but go all out. And I think Callum Wilson will probably sit out, obviously, this week. But I think you go all out. You've got that chance to get everybody fit and ready to go in December again.
Yeah.
So I can't see, like I say, I can't see wholesale change. 1 or 2. I would like to see Anderson play because I think he's been knocking on the door. I didn't think he was particularly brilliant against Southampton when he came on.
No, he misplaced a couple of passes now, but he was a bit cold, wasn't he? Because he's been out for a bit, and I think, as you say, mate.
You come into that environment and it's cold, it's wet. The game's won, and there's a little bit of we don't need to do an awful lot at this point, and because that's a little bit disappointing to see if that was the case. I'm not sure it was. I think he's just misplaced a few passes, but I certainly think he probably deserves to get a start in the cup, and see what he can do now. And maybe that's another big knock on Eddie Howe's door to go, I'm ready for more minutes in the league as well.
Absolutely. Oh, Jimmy, you sweet talker, you. That's probably the nicest one-liner you've come up with yet, mate. Not as funny, but very sweet. William saying we get Liverpool right before they face Real Madrid in the knockout round. We won't get a top squad revenge. Will be sweet. Absolutely. Especially when Mike Ashley buys them, mate. We've been on the wind-up all day with that. Absolutely class. We've got Barbara saying that I thought we should have had a pen in the first half of the game against Southampton. Yeah, I think that was that a handball, was it? I'm trying to remember. Was it a handball? Was it a tackle? The pen. I'm trying to remember. Well, that was it handball?
I can't remember. There was a handball shout, but I think
refresh our memory might have been that one. Oh no, it was because didn't we cross it in and his hand was down by his side and he kind of it looked like he extended it out a bit. I think is the one Barbara's talking about, and it clipped his arm. And I think we were shouting. Miggy was screaming for it, wasn't he? I remember now. Miggy was screaming for it. Yeah, I think it might have been a bit harsh, but they've been given, to be fair. Do you know what I mean?
Well, we've seen it over recent weeks where where the arm's been down by the side or not far from the body that have been given. So it comes down to consistency again, doesn't it? From the officials, just
absolutely. Jolly Jack saying he agrees with you, Mark. I think we'll go full strength in both matches. To be fair, Jolly Jack may have a point as well, Mark, as you do, because a lot of our players won't be going to the World Cup, so we'll have a nice break to get them fit and get them sharp. So potentially, you guys might be right there. Ash is saying Wood did look all right, to be fair.
That was a heck of a finish.
It was a great finish. I thought he was bang up for it. Was old Chris Wood, wasn't he, mate? I was quite surprised when he come on, and we didn't look like we were going to miss Wilson too much in that game. But Southampton were crap, but you can only beat what's in front of you. Peter's saying, seeing a Scottish fan is like finding a unicorn. Absolutely, mate. But even when our song was
well, isn't it?
Don't come home too soon. And we got here, was it the new Monkey Tapes and Tunes? Is this a song, is it? Miggy Almiron, he's got a little song bursting out in there. Absolutely brilliant. That's not that crazy Swedish lad that we saw on Twitter, was it? What was? They haven't had 4 lines for his breakfast. What was he called?
Mickey C or something? Tremendous. Yeah, he was tremendous. So
that's just wow.
That's a man full of confidence first thing on the morning, isn't it?
Yeah,
full of something.
He's full of something beginning with C, Mark, but it wasn't confidence. I can tell you that, my friends. It was white and it was powdery. It reminded me of Prime Icon in Newcastle, if everyone remembers that back in the day. Jesus, everyone was high as kites. They rattled when they came in that many pills in them. Sean's saying we've got good replacements apart from right back. Yeah, I think Manquillo is steady. He's not great, but he's steady, isn't he, Mark, to be fair.
He's another one that will do a job, but you wouldn't want him. Now you wouldn't want him near the starting lineup. He can come on and give you some minutes, but it's definitely probably one of the places you look to strengthen over time. Definitely,
yeah,
and look for. It sounds harsh because I think he's got a good few years left in him still, but you start to look for a replacement. Or you start to look for a young player to come through to start taking, the place of Trippier as time goes on.
I've got one in mind. I've got one in mind. I'll chuck it at you, especially with Dan Ashworth being there. Lampard from Brighton. Yeah. That'd be mine. I'd go for him one all day long. He'd be brilliant to bring in and take Trippier's place long term. Robert's saying, hi guys, we've touched on Miggy yet. We have touched on a bit of Miggy. Just go back and watch if you want, Robert, and see what you think, mate. Let us know in the comments. But yeah, his goal of the month, he had a competition on his own, basically, didn't he? To be fair, mate, he was absolutely superb. The new Monkey Tapes and Tunes is saying it's a great album name, that, mate. He's saying he'd love to see Anderson get a start as well. Jason saying Miggy has stopped overthinking. That's exactly what it is. It's something as simple as that, isn't it? He just reacts, and that's the difference. All down to Eddie Howe.
Do you know the funny that on that line, it's almost a little bit reminiscent of Papi Cisse.
Yes,
and Papi Cisse had time to think. He was dreadful when he just acted on pure instinct. He was unbelievable. His finishing was unreal. But when he had time to think, he fluffed his lines more often than not. I think what we're seeing with Miggy now, he's trusting himself to not have to overthink everything. So he is just acting on pure instinct for him. So it's I think you're starting to see the best of him. You go back to the way that he played in the MLS. and he's starting to look like him, and you are getting genuinely the best out of him now. And he's like I said before, he's an utter joy to watch.
It is. It's really enjoyable to watch him playing. And Barbara's saying it was the handball. Yeah, I thought that's what it was. My memory started coming back there, Barbara, when we were talking about it. I think it probably would have been a little bit unfair if we'd had it against us. But you have seen them given in the things. So I did see your comment, Ian. Sorry, mate. I just flew by at the end there. So yes, mate, we have worked together for years. You're a good lad, mate. I do miss the crack sometimes, mate, when you're not about. But Barbara said the team looked exhausted at the end of the game. She thinks there'll be at least 5 rested. I mean, even Miggy started looking a bit tired, Mark, didn't he? The Energizer bunny that is Miggy started to look a little bit tired as well. So I think there will be some changes, mate. I mean, it all depends on what Palace do as well. If Eddie thinks Vieira's going to go big on the game, then then maybe he'll go the same. Yeah, but they haven't really.
They've really got nothing else. I don't think they're in any danger of being sucked into the relegation fight. They're not going to challenge Europe. Their only real choice now is to kind of go for one of the cup competitions. I think that's really where they're at the moment.
Yeah, great comment. The icon was unreal, mate. Top club, not a patch on what the monkey was, though. If that's the monkey arms, that is somebody we know, mate, isn't it, to be fair? Hiding under a pseudonym there. We'll love a bit of that. So Ash is saying that Lamparty is superb. We should get him, absolutely. And then he could learn from Trippier, 100%, mate. I think because Lamparty's sometimes gets caught out defensively, and that's something that Trippier could really, really help him with. Peter's also saying that Arsenal already in talks with Mudryk, the Ukrainian winger, that we spoke about, and he's gutted because we would have wanted him. But I think Miggy's almost thrown a bit of a spanner in the work, Mark, with players like that, hasn't he? Because that kid would have been high up on our want list, and I think that Miggy playing so well it's probably changed the dynamic a little bit. Because how could you take Miggy out of the team right now? You couldn't, could you?
Yeah, he's the first name on the sheet now, and. Yeah, I think that everybody's focus was on somebody to play on that right-hand side opposite ASM.
Yeah.
In the summer, it was looking for that right-sided player. Maybe it's that right-sided, left-footed player that that could play in that role and give you a better outcome than Miggy was giving you. All of a sudden, that's not an issue. And if that continues on, he's properly solved the headache in that regard. And you then look for squad players, to come in and even you look at. We'll come back to that conversation about ASM. Somebody potentially to take his place and see him move on maybe in the summer. So
absolutely, I don't disagree with the new monkey there. That I think at the minute we are definitely a better team without ASM. To be honest with you, I think you'll struggle to walk straight back into the team. And sorry, Ash, that's done me in that Miggy is the Dolmeo puppet. There's incredibly likeness there. There's a real likeness there, mate. Absolutely is. William saying that Mudryk is a left winger, though. I mean, these guys can switch Mark on. They can play kind of side to side. Trolls isn't having it with ASM. He says, before he got injured, he was brilliant. That's the thing with ASM. That is a great shout. But I think with ASM, like we say, he can be a bit streaky, can't he? Do you know what I mean? But as Barbara says there, when Isak comes in, whose place will he take? Now, we did speak a little bit about this, mate. We might even do a little bit about this in the kind of World Cup break, so to speak. But for me, especially if you were to sign a player like a Maddison as well, maybe you could play 2 up front, couldn't you, with Wilson and Isak, or could you put Isak in a front 3 with Wilson and Miggy potentially, and then revert into a front 2 and have Miggy drop into midfield, in certain parts of the game or whatever.
You could. I genuinely can't see there being any changes in the approach at the moment. It is working so well. I think you don't start messing around with that. You play with the one through the middle, and you play with your 2 wide forwards. I mean, we've seen Isak play down that left hand side and be effective from that position. So, does he come in initially and play as that wide left forward, able to come in from that side and create goals and create goals for himself? So there's an interesting one. I know he's a record signing. He just doesn't walk in straight into the side at the moment. No. I don't think anybody can command that. Yes, he will over time, and I think he will be the natural successor to Wilson in that position.
I think he will be. Yeah, I
but
agree.
At the moment, he's just not going to.
Yeah, but the thing is, there's loads of ifs and buts, isn't there? Ifs and buts and coconuts, as well, Wreck-It Ralph would say. But if Wilson goes to the World Cup and he gets injured, which is a very likely possibility with Callum Wilson. I hope it doesn't, but if it does happen, and Isak's fit and sharp and ready to go, he's straight back in the team as a number 9, isn't he? As the central focal point and the striker. It's just great to have options, isn't it, in and amongst that attacking threat. And there might be some games where you think, what? We need Isak in that game, or certain games where you think, we need ASM, or we need Miggy, and if you can start to mix it up a bit and change it up a bit, that's the whole point of having a squad. For years, we just haven't had a squad, have we? You know what I mean? No. It's great to have that. And Sean's saying there, Wilson will be injured again, which will give Isak his chance. Yeah, I'm kind of thinking that as well. I hope it doesn't happen because he's class Wilson, but he is 30 now, and he, he's coming towards the end of his his time, really, in terms of his peak of his career. William's saying, wouldn't hurt my feelings if we addressed both left wing and left back in January. The left back one's an interesting one, Mark, isn't it? We could probably do a podcast on that on its own. We talked about Matty Targett being out of the team. We talked about BDB coming in as a left back. And he's not really put one of those gigantic feet wrong, has he, really, in all fairness, a left back? But we were talking about this, and we'll probably revisit it, that maybe Eddie Howe's long-term goal is to have a left back that can push on, like Trippier can push on the other side. But then I don't think you can play ASM with a left back like that, because they'll leave the left-hand side exposed.
No, I think you're right. I think it works perfectly in one, because the way that defence is set up allows Trippier to motor forward, and Dan Burn can slot in it and play that almost that third centre back when that happens, and it just allows you that freedom just to get Trippier creative, which is what he's brilliant at.
He's fantastic. Balls in,
getting forward and giving an overlap, or like we saw at the weekend, getting into that midfield area and playing the balls through the opposition backline. Do you want to? Is Eddie's end game to have a Trent Robertson style fullback? Maybe he's looking for a halfway line left back to complement Trippier, to allow him to get the best out of that. Is that not what
Target's meant to be? Is that not what Target's meant to be?
Possibly. I think that the thing with Target can get forward. He's just not shown an awful lot of it. He's not needed to. And certainly Dan Burn's not expected to get far beyond. He's almost like the old Nigel Winterburn sort of. He's not expected to get beyond the halfway line. If you remember the old Arsenal defence, the fullback stopped at the halfway line. And
did you see when he got forward the other day? I think he just put it out of play, didn't he? Did a big Dan Burn. His touch was shit. He just kind of rolled out. But that's an interesting one from Peter, Mark. If you want to take that quickly. Again, this is something we might revisit in a World Cup when we've got a little bit of a gap. If we do get Maddison in January, where would you play him? I know where I'd probably play him, but where would you play him?
It's a curious one, because you can almost cover quite a few positions with him. We can play wide, he can play through the middle, he can play more as a midfielder if needs be. But you want him in and around the area, creating chances. He's a goal contribution machine. You look at his stats over the last few years. He needs to be in and around that penalty box, much further forward, getting into the box to finish chances or to create them for others.
Yeah.
I'm on the line of saying you almost probably want to play him left-sided, because the way things are going with Miggy on the right-hand side, you're not going to put him over there, which I think he's probably better suited to playing right.
Yeah.
But he can play in behind as well, but then you're changing the way
formation
that you play.
Yeah,
exactly. Yeah. You lose one of those three in midfield if you start to do that. So I almost think down the left-hand side is probably at the moment where he'd likely fit in with just the way things are going.
Yeah, just actually, my idea of Maddison sweeps in well with Sean's comment there. And what I would do personally, and don't get me wrong, I love Joe Linton to death, right? We're just been bigging him up, right? But if you can get Maddison in January, for me, I would have if you're going to stick with a 4-3-3, I would either have Maddison almost as the attacking third behind the front two of Isak and Wilson, have him tucked in behind as a number 10, and then you have your three in midfield, with your your Brunos and your Joe Littons and your Willocks possibly, or I would drop them into a midfield two with Bruno and have a proper holding midfielder, proper defensive midfielder. Somebody off the top of my head, I can't really think of, someone like a Batty type player that just sits in front of the back four and sweeps up.
I mean, he's pulling his pension now, but he'd probably still do your job.
He probably would, maybe. But I mean, the nearest one I can think of is probably Alvarez from Ajax. Really,
that's the obvious one, I think now.
Somebody like that, just drop him in front of the back. Drop him in front of the back. Great minds think alike, trolls. You just jumped in there. So I would probably, that's how I would do it. But you're talking about me. Madison's going to be about 40 odd million. Alvarez will be about 40 to 50 million. So you're talking 100 million quid for those two players. And then obviously, what you do with Joe Linton. I mean, Joe Linton can be part of that front three and be effective. He can be part of that midfield three and be effective as well. So, it's a real conundrum, really, and it's something we'll probably revisit, I think, Mark, isn't it? In the downtime of the World Cup, possibly.
Well, this is it. I think once the league closes up next week, the transfer rumours will start to fly. You'll start to see everybody linked again, like we did in the summer. Gives us plenty to talk about, which is perfect for us. But you're going to see everybody, and everybody's then second guessing as to what Eddie Howe will want to do in the window when it opens. Is he going to go for that more defensive midfielder? Will he go for another fullback or another forward? Or I'm just probably pretty much named the entire side there, and we've no idea. So we'll start to see a lot of that start to hit as of next week.
That's brilliant, mate. That's the kind of thing that we're going to get stuck into a hell of a lot. So I think we just had a comment in there, Mark. What is that? Is that a donation? I'm just trying to see what the comment was.
Yeah. Thank you very much for that.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Roy. It threw me a little bit, mate. That so we don't get many of these, so obviously we'll welcome them if you want to bang them in. Thank you so much, Roy. Top man, we really appreciate that. You're a superstar, mate. So I think there'll be loads of players to talk about linking there. We could even argue the case of, do we have such a good defense that just can step forward into almost a defensive midfielder role? So you don't need that, which is why we're probably playing so well as well. But there's loads we're going to try and get stuck into during the World Cup, so we won't disappear. We'll just a couple more comments there just before we nip off for the night, Mark. So we have got here Tommy saying, I can't see anyone getting game time sold. Probably Lewis and players like that. Yeah, I agree, mate. I think Lewis will be surplus, probably Richie as well. Sean Taylor saying Bruno. I think somebody commented before about Bruno being a defensive midfielder. Bruno is a deep lying playmaker, as is Shelby. We don't have a true defensive midfielder. I agree with that, absolutely. And just before we shoot off, maybe one last one, Mark. The monkey saying, do you think we'll go big in January if we stay top 3, 4 and try and go for it? Being in the top 4 is very attractive to the bigger names. For me, Mark, I think we will. What do you think? If we're top 3, 4, do you think we'll go big?
I definitely think it opens the door to bring in a couple of much bigger names than you perhaps would have looked at 10 weeks ago.
Yeah.
If you are sitting in the top 3, top 4, with a real Champions League challenge on your hands, it's going to be difficult to pull players that are taking part in that competition, but it's not out of the realms of possibility. You're not going to have any issues with them being cup tied, for games in terms of playing in Europe and stuff like that. So it's definitely a possibility, and I think it's going to be minimum of 4th. So. There's a big enough gap now to not drop out of that top 5. I just think that gives, when you get back in December, and I know there's a game or two before the window actually opens, so you could drop out of it conceivably, but I'm not sure they will. I definitely think they can go not huge. They're not going to go and spend 200 or 300 million in the window, but definitely a couple of sensational signings could be the way forward and really kick on. And we said this a couple of weeks ago. Look, if you can hang on in there in that position until the window, that top four is a real possibility, because if you can bring in one or two more to really bolster that squad in terms of its quality, then why not? Why not have this as a challenge? And we'll refer back to the way that Leicester went. Yes, they didn't go big in terms of transfers, but everything clicked for them. And the fact that there's this gap, the fact that the window then kicks in just a couple of games later, it's just opening up the door for Newcastle to maintain that challenge as the season progresses.
Absolutely brilliant. And thank you so much, Barbara. We're really glad you enjoyed being here for the first time. And yeah, lovely for having you subscribe. And we look forward to seeing you on the next show. And just to finish off, and a better comment there from John North, Newcastle United FC, the sleeping giant has awoken. Brilliant. And that's a perfect way to tell everyone to go to bed, because it's nearly 11:15. So thank you so much, everybody, for joining in. We love the chat. It really helps the episodes flow, as always. And it's some lovely comments there as well, and it's nice to know how much the show means to you guys. And we really appreciate it. We love doing it. So just make sure that you stick with us, through the World Cup as well. And as I mentioned at the start, if you're new to the channel tonight, I have seen a couple of new names, as Barbara has. Please smash the subscribe button. We really appreciate it. We're over 2,000 subs now. We'll keep growing. And if you haven't, go check out the 2K subscriber video. Watch it to the end. Drop a like, and most importantly, drop a comment, so you have the chance to win the lightweight jacket as well, which is the jacket that Eddie Howe wears when he comes up with these brilliant managerial masterclasses. Yeah, so you too could be a managerial genius like Eddie Howe with this jacket. So good luck to everybody in that. We're obviously going to stop the deadline now for the kickoff on the cup game on Wednesday night. I'm probably going to pop back on with a match preview for the cup game, let you know what we think, as we always do. So keep it ever more, guys. Let's keep supporting that team. We'll call United. We'll all catch you next time. We'll be back on Thursday with the guys talking about the Southampton game and the cup game, hopefully with another win. And we'll obviously be doing the live draw for the jacket as well. So stick with us, guys, and we'll catch you next time. See you later.
Cheers. Good night.
Bye.